Hello students, Sairam. Dear children, I welcome you all to the part 2 of chapter number 5, Separation of Substances. In this session, we have seen why do we separate substances. Children, we separate substances to remove harmful substances from the mixture, then to remove or to separate harmful non-useful substances from the mixture, and also we separate substances to get two useful components. And then we are going to use these two different components separately. In today's session, you are going to see a story which is related about the various methods of separation of substances. Here children, by the end of this story, you will be able to explain the reasons for the separating substances, and you are also able to describe the various methods of substances such as hand picking, threshing, winnowing and sieving. Here children, in this story, the two kids Ravi and Tina are on a road trip with their parents. Here children, in this story, Ravi and Tina are on a road trip with their parents. Suddenly, their car is having some problem, so it stopped just near a farm. And their father said, I think so we are having some problem in the engine which is overheated. I don't know why. I will have to call or get a mechanic. Then Ravi said, Hey Tina, look, we have stopped right near someone's farmland. I wonder if we can take a walk and see it up from close. He asked his dad, Dad, can we go up to those huts and take a look at this farm while you fix the car? Then father said, okay, but be careful and don't go too much far from here. Your mom and I will keep an eye on you both. The lady in the farm saw them. She welcomed them to the farm. She said, Hello, who are you? Then Ravi replied, Our car is broken down nearby, but our dad is working on it. We just came by to take a look at your farm. Would you mind? No, not at all. In fact, I can show you around if you are interested. The lady replied, Let me just finish this cleaning of the grains. Tina excitedly said, Cleaning the grains? How do you do that? Then the lady said, Well, I am just picking out the impurities in these grains by hand. The grains are quite big size, and the amount of grain that I need to clean is not too much. So I can do that quite easily. Hand picking allows me to separate the good grains from the waste and the impurities, so that I have cleaned out to cook for the dinner today. So that I have cleaned out this to cook for dinner tonight. Dinner tonight. Hand picking is the basic method for separation of substances. It involves simply picking out substances by hand and separating them from others. The substances being separated may be impurities that have to be thrown away, like in this case, or it may be the substances being separated are useful, such as if you separate green grapes from black ones from a mixture of two. Now let's take a walk around my farm. As you can see, these are the wheat fields. The wheat is ready for harvest. Look, there is my husband. Then Ravi asked what he is doing. He is threshing some of the wheat that has been harvested and dried. Tina asked, Threshing? What's that? Yes, once the wheat has been harvested, the stalks are dried. Then each grain of wheat has to be separated from stalk from stalk to which it is attached so that it can be ground into flour. This method of separating the grains from the stalk is threshing. It is basically the beating of these dry stalks to shake off the dried grains. It can be done by hand or by cattle or by using machines. Traditionally, threshing was done by hand, but the cattle helped to do this job quickly. Now, threshing machines are used to separate large quantity of grains at a time. We have one of these machines. It's called a combine harvester. You can see it there in distance. This is a smart way to separate grains from stalk. Imagine how long this would take if grain had to be hand-picked off from the stalk. So, once the wheat has been threshed, all that's left is to grind it into wheat flour. Not quite. There is another step before that. You see, even though the large stalk can be separated from the grains by threshing, two wheat grains still have dried husk and chaffs, which has to be separated and before the wheat can be ground. But can that be done by hand picking? No, it would be too difficult and would take too much time. Instead, we use a method called winnowing. Let me show you this basket I have here. I have some wheat grains that are still mixed with their husk. Watch what happens now. The husk is blowing away. That's right. The husk is much lighter than the grains. So when I shake it gently and let it drop on the ground, only the wheat grains collect here while the husks blow away. Both of them were surprised. Tina and Ravi, both of them were surprised to see this winnowing method and said, "Wow, that's a neat way to separate wheat from husk." So now Tina asked to that lady, "Do you sell the grains in the market once they have been cleaned?" The lady answered, "Yes, sometimes. However, we also have a grinding unit on our farm, so we are able to sell the finished wheat flour or atta in the market. This is our small wheat grinding machine. Cleaned wheat grains are poured from the top of the machine. The machine grinds the wheat into fine powder or flour, which comes out from this opening and collects at the bottom of this large bag, and then this flour is packaged and then taken away to sell in the market." Not right away. There is one more final step that needs to be completed before it can be sold. You see, this machine grinds the wheat quite well, but there are still some thicker pieces or granules in the wheat flour that need to be separated and thrown away. This is called wheat bran. Can you guess how this is separated from the wheat flour? Well, it can't be winnowing, since we don't want the flour to be blown away by the wind. That's right. Instead of this winnowing method, we use to separate this wheat bran, and this method is known as sieving. Sieving is a method of separating substances that are of different sizes. For example, this wheat flour has some fine powdered wheat as well as some bigger impurities. When I put this through a sieve, the fine powder falls through the small holes in the sieves, while the thicker impurities remained as they were too big for these holes, and hence the substances are separated. Once the wheat has been sieved, it is packaged and ready and is ready to be sold in the market. Tina said, I don't know. So many steps have to be completed before we got to eat our rotis. We were generally knowing that we are getting the packaged wheat atta and mama is sieving that for checking whether any insect is there or not and to separate the wheat husk. And I thought that we are getting directly this we are getting this chapatis or rotis from the packaged atta, but before this getting packed this atta, there are lot of methods. That's why our teacher is telling that we should not waste a single grain of food or a single piece of food. That's why our teacher has already told us we should not waste a single piece of food because it takes a lot of effort before cooking also and after cooking also. That's why children, we should not waste a single piece of food, because as you have seen before cooking also there are many different methods are there for the separation of these food items. There are different methods like harvesting, threshing, winnowing, grinding, sieving, and directly our mother is making chapati. That's why we are not experiencing this hard work, and this may be a reason that we kids are wasting our food. Here Tina said, from next onwards I will not waste a single piece of food. I hope students, from this story you have learnt about the various methods of separation. Now you should be able to explain the reason for separating substances, and you will also be able to describe the methods for separation of substances such as hand picking, threshing, winnowing, sieving. Now children, I am ending this today's session over here. Till then, goodbye children. Thank you.